interaction. Next is sex. I'm going to come back to this one. It's my favorite topic. But we're going to go for a while. And when I get close to this one, I'm going to give you about a 5-minute break. Get your breath, whatever, and then we'll come back and really get into the fun stuff here. Last, music. I'll talk a little bit about that as well. Last but not least, how many of you had this one done to you? Childhood intimidation. Yep. It's a good one. You know, my granny, if I asked her any question about her religion, if it was the wrong question, I'd get my face slapped. I learned real quick, you don't ask granny the wrong kind of question. Curiosity was not a value in her mind. I'm not going to take questions right now, but I'll take a lot when we're finished, and I'll stick around too. Now, when you put all these things together, here's what you get. John McCain is not infected. The guy hardly showed his face in church until he started running for president, and then he suddenly got enough religion to find a church or two. But you know, he was Episcopalian. That is really Christianity light, so you can't blame him. You can't say he's too infected. But Sarah Palin is infected. She's deeply infected, as evidenced by this YouTube video. How many of you have seen this YouTube video? All right, good. For those of you who haven't, you need to go see this. This is Sarah Palin being blessed by Reverend Muthi from Kenya. He takes great pride in running women out of their villages when he finds them to be witches. Now, these are women who've lived all their life in a village, but now he determines they're a witch, they have to go. And he's proud of it, and she and her church actively support him financially. And they pay his plane ticket to come back and preach in her church. She hasn't been denouncing him. This very video was filmed less than 3 years ago. So I have yet to hear her say, Reverend Muthi running witches out is not good. This guy also supports the killing of homosexuals in Uganda and anywhere else he can find them. So this fellow is pretty insidious, and what he's propagating is pretty insidious, and she's right in the middle of it. So this is the infection strategies that cause a person to behave like this are permanent and long, or at least long-lasting. Let's understand how they work. Hypnosis channel. In religion, hypnosis is used as a technique to create a quasi-meditative state and relaxation response paired with a guilt message. Now that's the important part. It always has to be paired with a guilt message. Without the guilt, you don't get very far in the major religions. Now, I'll come back and explain how that works. Hypnosis opens the host up for infection or provides a booster shot. Now, if a virus, let's say a biological virus, is going to infect Ryan, right? In order to get into Ryan, the virus has to have the key to open his cell wall. It opens a cell wall, say this is the key, opens a cell wall, and injects its DNA or RNA into the cell, and then uses the cell's own molecular structure to propagate itself. Then it forces the cell to explode, and then viruses go everywhere to start the process all over again. If Ryan is immune to this particular virus, whatever it is, one of two things will happen. The antibodies floating around in his blood will see the key floating around and say, oh, we recognize that. And it will get in and block the hole for the cells in his body. So the key can't get in. The hole's not there anymore. Or it will take super glue and put it on the end of the key so it can't get in. Either way, it stops the infection from happening. So viruses act in that way, and your immune system acts in that way. How many of you were raised Catholic in here? Okay, good. What did they tell you when you were growing up? Were you raised strong Catholic?
Not really.
Oh, let me get a strong Catholic. Somebody that's really infected, really got the whole treatment. What did they tell you about those Protestants when you were growing up? They're doomed to go to hell. Anything else they told you?
Whatever they say.
Don't believe. Okay, good. Well, they were absolutely right. Those Protestants are going to hell. They're doomed. Don't believe. Right? How many are raised Protestant in here? Strongly Protestant? All right, what did they tell you about those Catholics?
Pope was the Antichrist.
The Pope is the Antichrist, those papers. That's right, you are right. And what's going to happen to those Catholics?
Oh, they're all going to hell.
They're all going to hell too. Yeah, there you go. Now, what's going on here is the Catholics are getting the antibodies to the Protestants. So that it will be very difficult for you to catch the Protestant God virus. You're getting the Catholic antibodies, so it will be very difficult for you to catch the Catholic God virus. It forces you to stay within the God virus that you're being raised in. And you get those kind of antibodies to every kind of God virus that's in your immediate vicinity. Now, how many of you, so now that you know what an antibody is, religious antibody, how many of you got the religious antibody to Zoroastrianism? I asked this question in Santa Barbara last week, and I had somebody raise her hand. She was raised a Muslim in India. Well, that's the only place you find Zoroastrians, and they're a little tiny religion, only about 500,000. But at one time, they dominated the entire Middle East. Zoroastrianism dominated the Middle East in 600 BC. Well, you didn't get antibodies to Zoroastrianism because it doesn't reside in your immediate environment. You only get the antibodies if you got a cold. If the cold is circulating, you're only going to get antibodies to those viral diseases that are in your immediate environment. That's why North American Indians were devastated by smallpox, because they had never been exposed to that God virus. That's why Lutheranism swept all through Northern Europe, because they had never been exposed to that kind of God virus. It was a rapidly successful new God virus. That's why Islam swept out of Saudi Arabia and took over in just 125 years as much territory as all of Christianity had taken over, because it was a very successful God virus. So you can see the parallels. They're remarkable. So viruses have to have a key to get into you. If you've got the antibodies, it can't get into you. But there's other ways to do it. The main way is early on in your life getting exposed to it and getting the antibodies. But then you need to get a regular booster shot. You got to go back to church regular, or you'll fall away from the faith. And we don't want that. We want you coming back and giving money and time. So you need to get your booster shot. And you get your booster shot through hypnosis. Hypnosis is done through sermon techniques and praying techniques and musical techniques. And all major religions use them. Now, I asked Art earlier if I could pick on her, so I'm going to take her up on that. Thanks for you can just stay right there. You don't need to do anything. Now, Ardith and I were working in I used to practice clinical psychology. I am not a clinician anymore. I want to get that straight. People go away and say, Darrel's a clinical. I'm not. I'm an organizational psychologist. But I practiced clinical for many years. If Ardith and I were working in my practice, and I was helping her get over smoking, or help her get over anxiety attacks or something, we might use hypnotherapy. That's the way to do it. So I might bring you into my office and hypnotize you. Well, the hardest time to hypnotize is that very first time. Because she doesn't know me, I don't know her, she's never been hypnotized, there's this trust thing. It's more difficult. So I'm a lazy guy. I'm a lazy psychologist. I want to make life easy for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hypnotize her in such a way that at the end of the session, it will make it easier to take her into an altered state or trance state the next time she comes to my office. So I'll demonstrate this now. So we've been working together for a little while. Ardith, I'd like you to close your eyes, breathe deeply, take a very deep breath. Just go ahead, deep breath. And exhale slowly. And I want you to think about color as you breathe very deeply. Color that makes you feel warm and comfortable. Let that color become more vibrant. As you breathe very deeply, I want you to put a shape around that color. A shape that makes you feel good. See the color inside the shape. Breathing deeply, letting the shape come closer to you, and the color become more vibrant. As you breathe in, I want the color to come even closer and more vibrant, and go out just a little bit when you breathe out. color come closer when you breathe in. Move out when you breathe out. Breathing deeply. Feeling relaxed.